Now, when you look at the OS security capabilities, Linux versus Windows, a qualitative assessment of the operating system security is subjective, and your mileage may vary based on the present and past experience. A true comparison between Windows and Linux on the values of inherent security of each operating system is hard to obtain, and the matter is extremely contentious among both security professionals and computer hobbyists. What it basically means is, if you take the case of my example, throughout my life I have been working on Linux and Mac OS X. So I do not like to work on Windows system for varied reasons. So my assessment of Windows may be totally different than what another person's opinion may be. Again, it is not to say that Windows is bad or Windows does not have security. Like I mentioned earlier, Windows also has got security built in. Unfortunately, the network administrators or system administrators do not know how to use the full features of Windows, thereby leaving the system compromised. And based on user experience, if you are going to lock down Windows completely, you may probably get the same opinion of Windows as a user in, say, maybe Ubuntu, that this system does not give me what is expected because I need everything to be open. So again, it depends on the past experience, and when you are comparing the security features, it is totally different. In Linux, for example, root takes it all is the principle. So as long as you secure root and keep your system up to date, you should not have any problems. Whereas Windows, because it is widely used and since it is the most popular operating system for non-technical users, as well as there are several softwares, there are several applications which were made for Windows and which may not run on different flavors of Linux or Mac OS X for that matter. So it becomes difficult to judge which is a better OS. Now, if you are using, say, Tally for example, through Wine installed in Linux, Tally works. But then organizations may hesitate to use Tally on Wine because of support issues. Tally themselves have a Mac OS X version, if I am not wrong. So again, it depends on the organization, it depends on the perception, it depends on what the organization require and how they are going to secure the infrastructure. The simple fact is, because there are so many more Windows systems in the world, there are simply more targets to attack, or there are more targets available for the hackers to attack. Windows has a richer and more attractive target for malware developer because he knows that if he propagates that malware or if he manages to install a malware, it will spread. Then Windows monoculture, because Windows systems are all tightly binary compatible, a single successful attack can affect a large number of them or large fraction of them. The security differences between Windows and Linux is heavily debated, and the security track record of both OSs have proven that Linux has lesser serious vulnerabilities. Also, Linux derives its security from the underlying Unix design philosophy. If you see the malware statistics, you will see as of 2009, over 2 million malware programs targeted Windows. Now, as of 2006, more than 800 pieces of Linux malware had been discovered. So, where is 2 million and where is 800? There is, of course, a time lag of 3 years, but even then, even if you double it, it is only 1600 pieces, whereas in Windows it is 2 million. Botnets, networks of infected computers controlled by a malicious person with more than 1 million computers have been witnessed. That means botnet attacks have occurred on Windows. Once the malicious software is present on a Windows-based system, it can sometimes be incredibly difficult to locate and remove. So, lot of malware removing programs itself are malware. You often get when you browse some site, download this particular malware detection kit free of cost. So one thing we have to understand in life as well as in security is nothing comes free. Everything is at a cost. If I am giving you something free, then what is my objective? So it is much more than money. It is much more than trying to exploit. It is something else. So, users are advised to install and run anti-malware programs. Windows now 7 and 8 all have inbuilt malware detecting programs. Now, when you come to Linux side, some of the malware programs for Linux have propagated through the internet. But in practice, reports of bona fide malware presence on Linux-based systems are extremely rare. Anywhere tools like ClamAV and Pandas Security's desktop secure for Linux do exist. So, like I mentioned, I've been using Clam for a very long time. Before it was a text-based version. Now you have Clam which can install on your webmin. You can do all the configuration, schedule it as a cron job. So you can do several things with Clam also. Here is a very interesting debate, open versus closed. Now, Windows claims that its platform is more secure because of comprehensive approach to security using security development lifecycle. But because Windows is closed, only Microsoft employers can fix the bugs. Now, new versions of Windows, recent versions of Windows like 7 or 8 have some security vulnerabilities detected. Now, when you take the open source, claims that its platform is more secure because all of its code is reviewed by so many people that the bugs are detected quickly. Anyone with programming experience is free to fix bugs and submit them for inclusion in future release and updates. But such an approach has indeed produced several vulnerabilities, although it is a very rare case. Sometimes you fix a bug and then it gives birth to another bug. So it is a very rare case because it is reviewed and so many rounds of testing are done or iterations of testing are done before it is actually a release candidate. So there are both positive and negative aspects of open and closed systems. Then the response speed or time. In Windows, there are claims that closed sources offers a faster and more effective response to security issues. But critical bug fixes are released only once a month after extensive programming and testing. And certain bugs are known to go unpatched for months or even years. But in the case of open source, bugs can be fixed and rolled out within a day of being reported, often within hours, though it usually takes a few weeks before the patch is available on all distributions. When we come to user accounts, in Vista and above, all logged in sessions are run with standard user permission, preventing malicious programs from gaining total control of the system. Whereas in open source, users typically run as limited accounts, having created both administrator or root and at least one user account during installation. Then in Windows, processes that require administrative privileges can be run using the user account control framework. In most Linux distributions, there are commands like su and sudo that will temporarily grant elevated permission to processes that require it. Here, in the case of Windows, for users who are already logged in as administrators, only confirmation is necessary. Here, new framework such as PolicyKit seeks to rectify the problem of this, but as on February 2009, PolicyKit in open source is not in widespread use. Now, coming back to Windows, for standard users, This presents a credential dialog that require a password of a member of an administrative group which are listed. That is for the user account control framework. And then the first user account created during the setup process is automatically a member of the administrative group. The majority of users did not change to an account type with fewer rights, meaning that in Windows version prior to introduction of UAC, malicious program would have full control over the system. However, the security of the user account control is not guaranteed to prevent malicious programs and users from unlimited access in Windows. So, one of the things that we have to note or learn here is the second last point under Windows. The majority of the users did not change to an account type with fewer rights. Once I am administrator equivalent, why would I deprecate my privileges or why would I bring down my privileges? So most of the time the users continue to use that administrator account unless otherwise it is domain joined. In Windows file system permission, the DOS based Windows ME, Windows 98, 95 previous versions of non-NT Windows only operated on the FAT file system and did not support file system permissions. But Windows NT and subsequent NT based versions of Windows use NTFS based access control list to administer permissions using tokens. On XP and prior versions, most home users still run all their software with administrator accounts as this is the default setup upon installation. The existence of software that would not run under limited accounts and the cumbersome run as mechanism forced many users to use administrative accounts. So that was one of the reasons why many users were forced to use administrative accounts. But few organizations have taken advantage of the richness of the token based system of NTFS, which can be applied to almost all NT operating system objects. Under Linux file system permission, Linux has a traditional Unix like user group other approach to file system permissions at a minimum. This approach is extended by access control list on some file systems. There are some specifics to Linux framework such as AppArmor and SE Linux, which add even finer grained controls over which the users and programs can access certain resources or perform certain operations. Some distributions use them out of the box. Ubuntu uses them out of the box. Fedora has got SE Linux installed. SUSE has got. So the concept of user, group and other is uniformly followed or the permissions have been assigned based on that criteria. We come to the conclusion of Linux and Windows security. Now, security per se is a perennial concern or a problem for IT administrators. So, the managers need a framework to evaluate the operating system security. The challenge in evaluating Windows and Linux on any criteria is that there is not a single version of each operating system. Like we said, Windows started from 95, 98, ME, XP, 7, 8, in between Vista. Now, even if you take a particular distribution of Ubuntu, it started from 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 point something, 11, 11 point something, 12, 12 point something. Now it is 14.04.1. So, because of that, there is not a single version of the OS, so it becomes difficult. Users need to keep in mind that there are philosophical differences in the designs of Linux and Windows. One of the fundamental differences, Windows is monolithic and Linux is not. The ability to make either operating system more secure varies depending upon the architectural design requirement of the company. The Windows OS is designed to support applications by moving more functionality into the operating system. and by more deeply integrating applications into the window kernel. Linux differs from Windows in providing a clear separation between the kernel space and the user space. With that, we will end the topic on Windows and Linux security, and we will look at some security baselines. So we look at the security baselines now. What are the objectives? One, these are again baselines. Disable non-essential systems or services. Harden the operating system. Harden the application. Harden the networks, including the security infrastructure. The first is disabling non-essential systems. So the first step in establishing a defense against computer attack is to turn off all non-essential services. Disabling services that are not necessary restricts what an attacker can use. It is by reducing the attack surface and hardening the operating systems. Now, when you talk about services, Telnet is a service. So, do you need Telnet for doing your day-to-day operation? No. So, disable Telnet. On suppose you are running a web server which runs on port 443 or HTTPS. Do you need any other ports open for public? No, you don't. So you turn off. Similarly, for MySQL or for Oracle, you change from the default port and put it on some other port so that you disable that default port. So when an attacker sees from outside, he will not know what service is actually running on what port. So basic idea is you turn off non-essential services first. Now operating systems use programs that run in the background to manage different functions. In Microsoft Windows, a background program such as svc host.exe is run. It is a process. The process provides a service to the operating system indicated by a service name such as app management or application management. You can see from the slide that svc host is somewhere in the middle. It is running. Internet Explorer is running. LSASS, you know by now what it is. So users can view the display name of a service which gives a detailed description such as the application management. A single process can provide multiple services. Now to view these services, most of you will know it, but even then, go to the computer management, double click on services and application, double click on services. So you will know what all services are running. So you can see that the application management is running. It is not started yet. A service can be set to one of the following modes in Windows: automatic, manual or disabled. Besides preventing attackers from attaching malicious code to services, disabling non-essential services blocks entry into the system. Now, hardening we have already seen, it is the process of reducing vulnerabilities. A hardened system is configured and updated to protect against attacks. There are three broad categories of items that should be hardened. One is the operating system, the applications that the operating system run, and the networks. You can harden the operating system that runs on the local client or the network operating system that manages and controls the network, such as Windows Server 2003 or 2008 or 12 or a Linux system. There is a link provided here. So you can go through the link which will give you some of the hardening measures that have to be done. Microsoft has got a good bit of documentation. You can also type in Google or search in Google hardening a Linux, Ubuntu Linux or a Red Hat Linux. You will get a lot of resources